Buenos días a todos. Muchas gracias una vez más por participar.
Good morning, everyone.
Encuentro.
Thank you once again for being in this webinar, in this Ask Me Anything session on native mobile. The dynamics will be as usual. First, we will introduce all our speakers. Then they will give an introduction on the topic. And finally, we will have open mics so that you can ask any questions that you want to ask. So please turn on your cameras and your microphones so that you can just ask your questions yourselves. So without further ado, I will hand the microphone over to the speakers. Marcos. Hello. Good morning, everyone. As Anibal was saying, we're going to be talking about native mobile and that you can ask us any questions that you may have on the subject. So first, let's introduce the team. My name is Marcos Crispino. I work as an Apple developer mainly in GeneXus. Hello, everyone. My name is Noelia Gonzalez, and I work in Test Mobile. Hello, I'm Jose Chaue. Max is not here, so Fabian. Good afternoon. I'm Fabian Itamuso, and I work in Apple platform generators. Hello, I'm Christian Intamusu, and I work with Android generators. Hello, I'm Esteban Monte de Oca, and I'm an Apple developer. Good afternoon. My name is Fernando Panisa, and I work with the Android generator.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Fabián Bonilla, trabajo en la parte de soporte.
Good afternoon, I'm Fabian Bonilla, and I work with GX test support for mobile generators. And I am Juan Pablo, and I work in the Android team. Okay, so everyone's been introduced. We had a live talk, one that was about the iOS generator, another one about the Android generator. It would be great if you have actually seen that because it's touching some of the main topics that we have discussed. We won't have any presentations because those two presentations have already been recorded and they are available. So let's move on directly to the Q&A session. So if anyone is brave enough. Remember to turn on your microphones and cameras and you can ask a question to the whole team. Okay, so if you took a look at the presentations, in both you had a screen that was similar to what appears now on the screen, some of the things that we've been working on this last year. These are also topics that you can ask us anything about, or maybe what we've been doing in this time.
Bueno, arranco con la primera de estas que están acá, la de Firebase.
Okay, so I'm going to start with Firebase remote configuration then. Firebase, as you well know, is a provider of a number of services. We had the analytics one, and recently we added the Crashlytics, which is to report any crashes in the application. The most recent one that we added in Firebase was the remote configuration service that basically it allows you to configure in Firebase's backend any app parameters. So if you want to have something, if you want to, for example, segment your users and have some users with one setup and some others with a different configuration, then you can easily do it using the service. What we did was we added an API. You can easily get the value from the server. Each device will have its own value depending on the segmentation that was made on Firebase's backend. And this is very used for what it's called edit testing, which is trying with a number of users a certain configuration and with a different group of users a different configuration. And in this way, you can determine which is the best option for the application. Which features to include, which ones not to include, how the application should look like, or or which buttons, that kind of stuff.
Bueno, sigo yo, menciono la de Macbox, si te
Okay,
parece.
then maybe I can talk about Mapbox, Marcos. We have a new provider for maps, which is called Mapbox. The thing is that a number of clients were asking about this this new Google's layer in the last couple of months, and even though Mapbox it's not free, it is very broad. And what we did was we refactored all maps because we have a number of providers such as Baidu. So what we did now was to refactor all maps so that they share all the functionalities. And these functionalities are not isolated per provider, but they are shared by them all. And on that, we have a new provider, which is Mapbox, to give developers a wider array of options to develop their applications. Yeah, something to mention about that is that, yeah, it's standard still. Yeah, and two more things to add. Mapbox allows us to use OpenStreetMap data, and it's the only provider that supports offline maps. You can use it if you don't have any internet connection, and that is good. That is good. Yeah, as Jose said, the thing with offline Mapbox, it's an important feature. And because of what I talked about before, it's one of the features that we don't share with other providers because the limitation is in the provider itself. It's not something that we limit. So if you want to use offline maps, for example, to download and see regions when you don't have internet access, then using Mapbox is the best solution.
Nadie se anima. Recordemos que estamos hablando mientras alguien se
Okay,
anima.
remember that we are just talking about this while we wait for someone to break the ice and ask any questions, any comments, any suggestions. It's now or never. Okay, well, I wouldn't say that they can ask anything they want, but yeah, don't miss this chance. We have the whole iOS and Android teams here together with the testing team. So I think this is a great opportunity to ask anything, almost anything that you feel like asking. So please take advantage of it. Okay, so in the meantime, I mean, feel free to keep on asking, talking about some stuff. Okay, design system objects. This was an object that we added in GeneXus to model the UI. The idea is that it replaces the old GeneXus themes. It is a bit more powerful. It allows us to also share the interface configuration both between web and mobile, and it makes it much easier for you. There are a number of talks about it, so if you haven't delved into this, this is really recommendable because this new object is coming here to stay. Okay, so we have a question. Leonardo Garcia, he says, good afternoon. Can you get just a mobile solution without backend or synchros? The answer is yes, you can. But there is no way to tell GeneXus that you won't have a backend. You don't have a property that you can tell it, I just want the offline application. GeneXus will try to build the backend and also all the synchronization services. The way not to do this is to separate the send and receive properties, to tell it never to synchronize. And the backend, what's going to happen is it's going to have a database with no services because it will be offline. And you don't need to deploy that because it will never connect. But in practice, the application would be mobile only. So the name needs to be the main needs to be offline. And yeah, don't deploy it. Ask it never to synchronize and don't deploy the backend. Just as a side comment, you need to be sure not to call any online or panel or service or procedure when you have your call trees, because otherwise it's going to deploy the services. If you're not careful with that, then that's going to send an error. So all the call tree needs to be offline or in edit. And of course, you can use the HTTP client to connect to services if you have a third-party service connection that are not within the application. Okay, Carolina Torrado, it says the DCO for mobile is ready to start the development with a new SDO app, or are there still some features missing? Okay, the full implementation is coming out now with upgrade 7. In upgrade 6, was it available? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But in the 7th upgrade, it will be complete. What we don't have yet is an Animo, which we don't have Unanimo, which is the design system that will be provided by GeneXus. But the design system object, well, you can use that. Something that we tried in a number of KBs was to convert the design system theme and see if everything was running smoothly. And in terms of how powerful it is, it should be the same or better than a theme. The object that will replace the themes is a design system object, which is DSO. That's the acronym. Come on, no one is asking their questions on the microphone. Everything is on the chat. We have another one. We have one here that says, how can you get speed between screens for mobile applications? When in each screen you go to the server to get data, it takes a while and it's not so fast. Yeah, there's a workaround, which is from the panel that you're calling it, if you have pre-populated data, you can always pass it through a parameter and that is shown immediately. Yeah, well, the data that you get by parameters, those are available before you go to the server. Yeah, I was also thinking that the data in your cache, and maybe this is about the first time that you access it, the cache, it's shown in the server also at the beginning. So I don't know which case this is. Our solution is to have an offline application, to have all the data for the sync part and then show everything locally. Not all the applications can work like this. It depends on the architecture that you have and what it's supposed to do, but that would also be a potential solution. Or you can try to optimize the server. If it's a latency problem, you can get a closer server. If it's a matter of the time of response of the server, you can use the database accesses or try a faster server or reuse the code. You need to do some digging there to see what is making those, what is causing those delays, and then try to tackle that issue in particular. It shouldn't be something too serious. If the server is responding in time and manner, then that shouldn't, result in much time loading your data. Yeah, that was answered. The one about the name, it's called design system object. Good afternoon. I have an offline app. I do manual sync and sometimes the sync process fails. Is there any way to do a rollback on what's already been sent to the server? I don't know what kind of sync you're talking about. Yeah, it is manual, but you have the send and the receive. The receive is a whole atomic synchronization that if it fails, it will not commit the data, and the send will. I think that if the whole process is not completed well, then you don't get the commit in your server of what was sent. So maybe if you can shed some light on exactly what you mean, if you're talking about the send or the receive failing. And if you have any details on why this is failing. The important part is that the synchronization shouldn't fail. Yeah, I don't remember if your commit is down at the end, in the end. Yeah, I'm talking about the send part. But regardless of whether or not we do it in the end, you can always have a BC that does your commit, or that maybe in the send, what it does, the send part, what it does is it sends an update package for the database. These updates are done through BC, and it tries to apply them to the server. Those that can be applied are applied, and those that send an error are sent back to the device with an error message. The problem is if you just lose communication in between while that is happening, and that is not saved, then well, we should try to see what happens in that case. But you shouldn't have to apply things again or do any kind of rollback. It should be automatic. Can you hear me? Hello, I'm Marcelo Moya. I asked the question. What happened to me was that exactly. If you want to get technical, I had tables that I had the GX result, GX parameters, and GX device, and I understand that those are the tables that you use to match what's on the client side and what on the server side. Yeah, yeah, that's these those are these send and receive functions. Yeah, that's when I had this problem. It wasn't something that happened a number of times, but a couple of times when the codes were not correct, I got an incorrect sync message. So some data, well, it was like the sync process was like halfway through, and I was told, okay, do a rollback on what you've already sent and send it again. And I didn't know how to do that. That was my specific problem. But you know, following the same line of thought, these three tables that considerably increase, can you delete those at any point? Yes, as a matter of fact, that should be automatic. The deletion of those tables should be automatic. There's a main property that tells you how often you want them to be deleted, and it purges them from the data tables that you no longer need. Yeah, it works a bit like this. You have two tables, one that is the header and another one that is the rows. Each device that it is synchronizing, if you have two devices that have the same data, the header will be the same. Sorry, you'll have two headers, but the rows will be the same because the data are the same. Those rows and those tables have a detail of the data that were sent. And so you have one header per device and the rows are shared. What happens is that when either of those two devices resyncs, it will have a different version of the data, and you will have that header deleted. When the second one synchronizes, the second header is deleted, and so there's two groups of rows that have no common header. Yes, that's so the process that happens after this is that those rows that don't have an associated header are deleted. Yeah, maybe that could be the problem that I had, because that very same tablet, this device, two different users accessed it. First, one user with their username and password. They did a sync process. They did what they were supposed to do. Then they logged out, and then there was a second user with their own username and password. They did some manual sync, and that's when we had this little problem. Question: if I authenticate with a user, can I automatically delete everything that that device has for those three tables? I mean, to start, let's say, from scratch, depending on the user that is authenticating. So the user authenticates and that is deleted. What's your concern? The tables that you have in the server, or what is going to be stored in the device? No, I'm concerned about whenever I have things in the device. Yeah, those tables are not in the device. They are only in the server. I know, but I'm worried about the information that this person sent to the device while not connected, and it cannot be synced. Yeah, the point is that that information that is saved in the device and sent to the server is a different synchronization process, which is the send process. Those tables are not involved in that process. Okay. What is done in that case is you're saving the table in the device with all the changes that need to be sent. And when the connection is back on, they are sent to the server and applied to the server, in the server. That is if you're talking about the send side of this synchronization process. Yeah, but I think that Marcelo's concern is, let me see if I got it correctly. It's you have a user that is logged, that is synced, and those data are kept online, are saved online, offline. And with that, when that person logs out, that those data are not saved in the device. Yeah, there's a solution to that, which is when you log out, you have a reset database function or a reset offline database. What it does is basically it goes to the last preloaded version of your data and it starts from scratch. That's what has been done in this case. Okay, yeah, that's a great tip. So you reset on offline database when you log out. Okay, that's amazing. Thank you.
La siguiente pregunta ahí es
The second question there is there a theme to SEO to DSO converter? Yeah, basically you right click on the theme and there is an option for your design system and that converts it all. Actually, we ran some tests with our staff and it worked really well. We tried some other themes and they also worked out just fine. So if there's anything that is not working, that's just an error. But we tried everything that we could and it should be up and running. After you've converted to design system, you can use all the new design system features and it should be working just smoothly.
Perdón, con respecto al tema anterior que la
Yeah,
pregunta
about the last topic, Karina says, if he hasn't done the send part, he needs to be careful because you may lose your data. So you need to make sure that you have done that send part first. Yeah, Carolina, maybe you can tell us a bit more about that later. What they did, according to what I understood, is they logged out if they didn't see any pending data. Then only then they did the reset online database. Yeah. The thing is that if you log out when you're not connected, you can lose some of your data. And if you're connected to a network, that's better. Thank you, Carolina. Marcos? I have a question. A couple of minutes ago, you were talking about what happens when you were working with an offline application, which is our case here in the lab. And we have this online application that it's not deploying cloud to cloud because there is no backend in this case. So it is true when you try when you test the application, it tries to synchronize, but of course there is nothing to synchronize. So are you telling me that in those cases I can activate and deactivate that attempt to synchronize? Because I'm going through the properties here. Yeah, in the offline database properties, you will see that for both send and receive synchronization, you will have manual, automatic, and never as options, and you need to select never for both of them. That is the main offline database. That's the name of the object that is associated to this. So the properties. Yeah, did you find it? Okay, yeah, great. Yeah, got you. That was one question. And the other question that I have is of this new object that is going to replace the theme object. After which GeneXus version will it be operational? Because we're using U3 here, but I can see that you already have U6, upgrade 6. Yeah, the object itself is available after upgrade 6. GeneXus 17 upgrade 6, and the mobile support. Well, we had done something about that with the 6th upgrade, but this will be fully operational in upgrade 7.
La liberación oficial es en el U7, o sea, si lo...
Yeah, officially U7. So if you're gonna migrate, go directly to U7, which is completely, which has been completely tested. There was still some details to be polished with U7. So if you can just go directly to U7 and skip U6, all the better. Yeah, great. Okay, I'll definitely do that. Thank you. Okay, we have another question on the chat. Is it possible to graph the... there is another question before, sorry. Edmar Martelato, he says, good afternoon, everyone. Any deeper improvement for offline synchronizations? Edmar, could you tell us what you mean with, what kind of improvement you are talking about? Okay, let's go to the other question then. Is it possible to graph the translation tracking from one point to another in a map for Android and iOS? Yeah, in the La Rosas, her city, there is tracking in the background explanation where you can save the points, and we worked with maps and drawing features, drawing points and lines, and depending on what you want to do, there is a lot of new stuff in the map APIs that you can try, to achieve whatever you want to achieve when working with maps. Anything else to add? No, I think that Fernando was quite clear. You have different ways of drawing maps and lines in a map. You can sometimes draw effectively. And the other option that depends on the kind of usage is to pre-calculate a route. For example, I want to go from A to B, going through certain points, and create a route through which you have to go. So basically, you're drawing a route in a map. And as Fernando said, there are a number of APIs that you can use. You can use, for example, direction layers if you want to calculate the route from A to B. Or you can have a geoline in the map, for example, in the case that you want to calculate the route. So it depends on what you want to do, what API you should be using. Okay, talking about waypoints, that's something that has been recently added. I think it was upgrade 4 or 5. This is for you, if you want to calculate A to B, you don't need to go with A, B. If you want to go from A to D, you don't need to do A, B, B, C, C, D, but you do directly the calculation between A and D, and you have waypoints in B and C, and that makes it more optimal and faster. We have another question by Abdias Alvarado. Can you do a receive of some selected tables and not the whole database, or even better to synchronize only some specific data of the tables that you want to work with? Yes and no. It depends on the tables that you use in your main, because the tables involved in the offline databases and therefore in the receive synchronization mechanism are the ones that that the GeneXus specifier will determine. That depends on what you're using that has offline connection, either in the property or that they have this inherit function, and you can call it by something that is offline connected. So based on that call tree, the specifier will determine which tables will go to the offline database. And so if you have more tables than you would want to, then you need to take a look at which is the object that is, marked as offline that shouldn't have been selected as offline. And that is a matter of checking. The other thing that you can do is maybe you have some tables that you want to have in your offline database because, for example, you're saving data in your device, but you're not interested in synchronizing them. Then the best mechanisms, the best mechanism is to have conditions in your synchronization. If in the offline database, let's say that the idea is the idea of conditions in offline databases is that you can just work with the data that you want. So if you want, you can include a condition not to send any data on the receive. It's a way of hacking this so that it's telling it take the table but not the data. That table will be offline and those data can be saved, and then it will be synced with the server. Yeah, I asked that question, and maybe the question is more about the fact that we have some data that are being loaded in the application that don't belong to the user, and maybe you have a number of users that need to sync the application and data that they will never consume in the application. And so the sync process is quite slow. And they're using data that they have data that they will never use. So maybe you have a condition that you can give it to say, okay, I only want to get the records of this user for all the tables, or maybe just not to synchronize. Yeah, as Marcos was saying, that you have to use conditions on your offline database. You have, for example, an invoicing table, and you have the user in the invoice. You need to get a condition for it to take only the invoice of that user. And yeah, it's a condition-based approach. Maybe this invoice example was not the best example, but maybe, zone. Imagine that I'm selling, I'm a salesperson in zones 1 and 2, and I have this condition to only get the zones for my user, and another user has zones 3 and 4, and they get those zones. So you're working with the same tables, but different data depending on the user. That is running the synchronization process, the synchronization process. Yes, what you need to take into account is the data model and what these data mean, what some data for a certain user mean. And that is unique to each application. Maybe it's because you have your user in the table, or because the user has, I don't know, different neighborhoods or areas, as Fernando was saying, and you have them working exclusively in some zones or areas. And so it's a matter of identifying which data belong to each zone. Okay, thank you very much.
¿Preguntas?
Okay, any more questions? Okay, while we wait for further questions, I want to clarify something. I talked about upgrade 7, and I want to say that upgrade 7 is not downloadable yet. It hasn't been released. It will be released in mid-December. Just FYI. Yeah, exactly.
Bueno, tenemos otra pregunta.
Okay, we have another question. Good afternoon. For iOS in upgrade 7, it forces the update of Xcode 13, and this is and because of this, you need to update to Monterey. No, it's the other way around, right? If you update to Monterey, you need to update Xcode 13, which also runs in previous versions. Then, can you run in that SO older versions of Xcode to keep on working with older GeneXus versions? What you should do is work with the previous iOS version. So you should stay in that macOS version, and then you can install all the Xcode versions. But what you can't do is go to Monterey and install Xcode 12, but you can do it the other way around. Yeah, there's a workaround for that too. Does anyone remember how to do this? What you can do is there is this not official workaround to run Xcode below 13 in Monterey, which is basically you need to go from the terminal application and apply Xcode and run Xcode from there. If you go to YouTube and you look up Xcode 12 Monterey, you will have a video that shows you how to do this. Yeah, but those that haven't been updated yet,
No, creo que no te
And what about compiling with GeneXus? Yeah, you can do it manually. You have the GeneXus setup. GeneXus will copy everything in your Mac, and then you have the generated project from your on your Mac. Yeah, GeneXus copies everything because it checks the version. Yeah. Yes, and if you've updated and want to backpedal, you can install the previous version. And another option is that you're in Monterey and you want to virtualize. You have free versions, but you need to pay for a license.
También quisiera saber si FlexiClient de iOS se puede usar en las fuentes como en
Yeah.
Android.
I also wanted to know if the flexible client in iOS can be obtained. You can obtain the sources like in Android. Well, you will have to talk to the commercial departments. No, they're not public, the iOS sources, the iOS fonts. I understand that we have a confidentiality agreement, but that is not up to us. I'm sorry. But we can maybe do some digging and let you know. Ulysses is asking us the themes object after December 2021 will be not running in GeneXus 17. No, don't worry. It will keep running and working. It will be a bit dated because we would rather you use the design system object, but it will still be supported. So don't worry about that. Yeah, and any new stuff that we add, we will try to add it always in both, themes and DSO, but we will always prioritize design system. We won't add anything new exclusively to themes. But in GeneXus 17, I reckon that all versions will support it, and also that GeneXus 18 will keep on having the object. It's not that you need to, change all your theme objects from one version to the other. We have Ramon Perez, who raised his hand. Hello, good afternoon. This is Ramon here. Regarding the last U6 upgrade, we had an iOS and Android application in U3 and it was not working. The switches were working perfectly, but not with U6. Now it's working in Android, but not in iOS. You can see it as an edit field. I don't know if something changed or you need to make some changes to it.
No.
Lo teníamos identificado, pero no.
No, we hadn't seen that. The idea is that it should still be up and running. So maybe you can send us a message directly to try to take a look at your case and see what's happening. Yeah, what you can do now is you can configure the colors. That was tested, and I think that was for upgrade 6. And it was okay when we tried it. But yeah, probably we have to go over that. Yeah, even though the documentation said that was something that had been added, but well, it came as a surprise when we saw that the switch was not working. In our case, what we did was to have a condition to work with a radio button in the case of iOS and with a switch for Android so that we have a similar functionality, but we couldn't overcome this switch problem. Maybe because it was a U3 model. What we also did was to create a model from scratch for U6 so that we didn't have to migrate it from an older version, and that didn't work either. And another thing that we found out is that if you want to call, for example, an SD panel in a screen, when it's a pop-up, the app crashes. Yeah, if you can just send us a report on those problems through support, Ramon, that would be great. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. Yeah, the sooner the better, Ramon, because we can. I'm sure that we can find it soon to have it released with the next upgrade.
¿Alguien más que se anime?
Okay, anybody else?
Yo de nuevo, Marco, puedo hacer una consulta con respecto al...
It's Marcos here again. Can I ask a question about the matrix script control? There is a wiki example on an Aztec 7 application. From upgrade 1 to upgrade 6, has that control been modified? Because I can't make it work. The form of the XPZ and the way that it's distributed in the wiki, I just can't get that right. I don't know that. Does anyone know if that changed? Yeah, no, I can't remember that. I don't think that it changed though, but maybe that example that appears on the wiki is a bit old. Maybe we can take a look at that. What is it that is not working for you? Yes, I was working with some timetables for an application that we are working on here, and I just can't get the form right. In the middle part, when you have a separation between, for example, film and photos, the documentation says that through the themes object, you can get differences in colors. For instance, you have darker or lighter grays, and specifically that is not working. It's always like a white background. I changed the themes and it doesn't change a thing. So as you were saying, Fernando, the XPZ, which is available in the on the wiki, is quite dated. So I started, trying to fix it, but it didn't work. Yeah, okay, so we are jotting that down as a pending task, Marcelo. Thank you very much.
Bueno, ¿alguien más?
Okay, anybody else? We still have a couple of minutes, so we can answer many more questions if you have any.
Carolina, el nuevo scan de QR permite personalizar la
The new
pantalla.
QR scan allows you to customize your screen when you're scanning. That's a question that we have from Carolina. And Juan Pablo, no, you can't customize your screen. Regarding the new QR scanner, we were using a third-party Google package before to scan, and that sometimes gave us some problems if you didn't have the application installed in the same Android device. So what we are doing now is we have our own control in which everything happens within the same application. I don't know if that's what you mean by a new QR scanner, but no, you can't update the screen. Yeah, maybe as a workaround, you can always use a canvas control and you can have things on the new control. Yes, but no, because no, sorry, no, you're right. Yeah, with the inline control, yeah. Yeah, if you have an inline scanner control, which I don't know if you do, in that case, you can get a canvas and have things on top of that.
Eso nos habían preguntado, ¿no? Poder poner
Yeah, we were asked about, for example, having the person's face. But yeah, for the camera to take pictures, we don't have an inline control, but that could be a solution. Yeah, but we don't have an inline camera. When we run in a virtualized machine, the Android emulator, it is very slow. At least we haven't made it run acceptably. Do you have any tips on this? Another question that we have from the audience. Well, yes. Yeah, this is a complex issue. It's not our problem, it's Android emulator's problem. A couple of months ago for a GeneXus course, I tried something in a machine and it had improved loads, but I can't remember what I did exactly. It was a matter of the virtualization setup that I can't remember now, but there were some things that you could try out with different virtualizers. In that sense, probably my recommendation is to use a device. And if you can't, you can use an emulator, a physical machine, or otherwise you will have to use an emulator on top of the virtualization. If you want, I can take a look at this and I can send you some stuff on this, but they're all hacks and trials, nothing official as a solution. I'm talking about anything official in terms of Google's emulator.
Pregunto yo una. ¿Alguien ha
Okay,
usado?
I have one. Has any of you done any mobile UI tests?
No. ¿Sabían que existía?
No? Did you know that you could?
Bueno, tenemos test de UI en GeneXus.
Okay, we have UI tests in GeneXus through GX test. These tests can be relatively easily programmed with commands. So you just tap, you have a tap function. And then you can just have if you want to have a value in a field, you need to write field and then the value. So do take a look at that. Jorge Fay is asking us for multi-tenant, multi-company, multi-user applications. Can you work with offline, for example, a credit system with a self-managed credit system, let's say? Yeah, you can. If you ran into any difficulty, if you came across any difficulty, just let us know. But yeah, a priori, you should be able to. You have to take a look at the table design and what are the conditions that you have for your synchronization. But initially, yeah, you shouldn't have any problems with that. And the solutions are the same as we talked about with the previous example, to have, to be careful with the log out and the conditions that you're configuring for your users.
¿Alguien más?
Anybody else?
El orden de los eventos que explicaron está en la documentación de cuáles.
The order of the events that you explained are in the documentation. What events do you mean?
Si quieren habilitar cámara y audio para hablar, a veces para las preguntas es más fácil.
If you want to turn on your cameras and microphones, maybe it's easier and clearer than asking through the chat.
No, perdón, Jorge, pero no te estoy entendiendo.
Jorge, sorry, I'm not following what events you mean. Hi, can you hear me? Yep. In this case, it's well, we have some people that are having some issues with offline, and I was taking a look at what Carolina said about the order, the exact order in which you have to work with the receive and the send to avoid losing data. And my question is if that appears in the documentation in that order, because I haven't found it. No, you don't have a specific order. I think that what Carolina was talking about is when you're logging out, when you delete your data, just to make sure that you don't have any data pending to be sent, because otherwise you will lose them. Yeah, no, and what Carolina talked about was precisely when a user logged out, to delete everything so that nothing is stored in case you have a different user later on. Let's say specific login application used with the user. It's not the normal way in which the send and the receive work, which can be written at any time at any event. Normally, you have the receive when you start the app, which is when it's receiving. the data, and then you have the send after you save it, and that connection is sent. And that is the way it works normally. Then manually, you can write it in different events. So I don't know what was your question specifically? Yeah, in my case, what's happened is that, you know, I would like to be able to tell a client where they will find that order that you were talking about. But the second thing that I wanted to ask you, and this is something that happened to me, was I was doing an offline test, and halfway through, we lost internet connection. So now to try to recover the data and to do the rollback, it was, as I said, halfway sent. And apparently everything went back, you know, to the previous step, but I couldn't synchronize the application. I needed to do something on the outside with the device not to lose my data. So I think that that was the question that had been asked before, if you had any solutions or workarounds for this.
En el caso, si lo tenés,
We should take a look at the case specifically. If you have that, please send me detailed information, or at least an overview of what was happening, what was being done when that synchronization stopped, to try to reproduce it ourselves and see what happens. But you shouldn't have that problem. You shouldn't stop synchronizing. Yeah, maybe you should tell them about how the send works and why it shouldn't happen. Because if it's cut halfway through, then the client will try to resend everything. Because what this send does is it sends everything that is pending synchronization. And then it applies operations one by one on the server. Once that is done, the result of each of these operations. In the meantime, in the device, it appears as pending to be sent until it gets to the server. So if the data were sent to the server and communication was cut in the middle, it should appear as pending. If you didn't get a reply, it should still be pending to be sent. And if it sent you an error, then it didn't synchronize because it couldn't. Yeah, I will try to recover that, because it wasn't my error. I saw it. Someone else showed it to me. Some people, you know, they do some samplings in plantations. They have no Wi-Fi. They're in the middle of nowhere, and they're syncing through a button, and you know, at a certain point it didn't synchronize. Yeah, one of the things that we did for cases like that is for an application that had to take pictures and synchronize a number of data, because it was out in the country that didn't have connection. So when they synced, it was a huge lot of information, and you know, the server didn't have enough time to process all the information in a reasonable time, so it sent a timeout error, and it was pending to be sent, which even when with things that had already been sent. So what we did for that was we added the possibility of having like checkpoints. So this was like a tour that they were making. They were taking pictures, and when they were done, they had a checkpoint, and then they start with a new tour, and they marked a different checkpoint. So instead of sending all the data together, it sends data between checkpoints, and it's easier to be processed. And that way, you will have fewer risks of getting a timeout error. And that was the reason why we did this. If that is the case, that you're just sharing too much data, maybe something like that it could work. And those checkpoints, do you code them in it? Yeah, I think it's synchronization dot checkpoint or something like that. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. That's good. Yeah, set checkpoint, I think it was. Can you include it in the chat? Yeah, thanks. I will give that a try and let you know. Okay, Marcos, just one last question regarding the same synchronization issue. If it is manual, what do you recommend to do? Because I have programmed it in this way. First, I do the send, then I do the receive. Is that okay? Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, great. Yes, if I'm not mistaken, when you do the receive, if you have data to be sent, then it sends them first. So it would be automatically doing it.
Yo mandé el link.
Yeah, there you have the link on the chat
Y Fabián,
about what we were just talking about. And Fabian also sent the documentation. Yes, it's okay. What you were saying, Marcelo, you first send and then receive because of the data that you sent were processed in the server. Then with the following receive, you will get the data that you sent or any data that were changed if they were modified in the server. Okay, what I'm doing in that case is that I have the result for both in a variable, both for receive and sync. So when I show the user a message of incorrect synchronization, that is when either of the two was different from 0. So would you be recommending me to check what I'm sending before I do the what I sent before I do the receive, or is it okay to do it after I've sent and received? No, I think I would split it. I would if the send failed, then I wouldn't even try to do the receive. Okay, great. So you would do that. Okay, I'll do that too.
para el usuario, va, no sé,
Yes, because
el usuario, pues,
I don't know who your users are, but for the user, the error will also be clearer. It will be clear for you if you get a report.
el receive, cuál es el
You will know whether it was the receive or the send part. Yeah, great. Okay, so I'll do that. I'll split it and see the receive the send results first. And if the results is successful, then and only then I will move on to the receive part. Thank you. Okay, we have another question. In a GeneXus 16 migrated to GeneXus 17 application, the home logo was a round logo, and we couldn't overcome that issue with the staff from the patterns team. Yeah, so you changed your icon in the home screen. Is that what I'm getting? Yeah, we did that, but long ago. Yeah, but it's coming from upgrade 16. Sorry, GeneXus version 16.
Dice en Android y en iOS.
Yeah, it says that it's both for Android or iOS. I don't know what you mean when you say that it's not round. Maybe Fabio, if you can tell us a bit about what you mean with this home logo. We're thinking about the app's icon, but maybe it's something else.
Yo el que estoy pensando que es el action bar, el que está en la action bar, digamos.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the action bar,
X15,
but that was changed in GX15.
¿Cómo?
No está mostrando en la cámara.
En la cámara.
Yeah, it's being shown in the camera. In the camera, let me see if I can see it. Yeah, you have the blur feature of Zoom, so we can't really see it. Yeah, that icon is inside the application, right? Yeah, okay, so you need to try to see what theme it is, but you can have anything you want there. It's a panel. It's a normal panel, so maybe that has any like a pattern applied or something. I don't know, Fabio, if you're talking, but your microphone is muted, so we are not hearing you. Yeah, I was. Sorry. Yeah, we saw it with the WorldWidth team, and we couldn't correct it because it was rectangular in in GX16, and now it's round. Yeah, but it looks much better like that, doesn't it? So that you got this panel? Yeah, but the client said, okay, at least I would like to be able to refill that cylinder with the same color and have it maybe, to make it look rectangular, but no, we can't. So we were just unable to fix this. Okay, the fact that it's round, we don't have a control that gives you round images. So that means that you did something in the theme class. You need to take a look at what theme class you have applied. But if you didn't find a way around it, maybe you can you can ask us through support and we will take a look at it directly. But initially, maybe it's a theme class that is making it round. It could be the pusher or the pattern, but we don't do round images by default. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Let's try to send a report on this, because this is something that they are asking us to fix, to have the square as we did before. Yeah, you should be able to do that. Well, thank you. Okay, we have Carlos Gonzalez. He's saying, I need to reproduce sound in SD, but the audio is in the server and users don't have a stable connection. That makes a delay in the sound reproduction. Any chance that you can download an audio in a file without asking the user and then calling that audio locally? We've tried this example, blah, 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 but it's asking the user in which file they want to save the, in what folder they want to save the file. So I would like to predefine a root by default. Yeah, with HTTP client and with a to-file command, you should be able to just save it in any root in the application sandbox without asking the user. Let me take a look at the example. Yeah, it would be that would be in the cache editor. Okay, but it's not asking the user for permission, is it? No, if it comes from the applications directory, it doesn't require permission. You need to take a look at what is the directory that you're using so that you have an application directory that won't require the permit, the authorization. Yeah, I don't know. We need to take a look at the example.
Bien, vamos con la última pregunta.
Okay, so last question.
Si alguien la hace, ¿no?
If we have any, of course. Okay, we have Abdias who raised his hand. Abdias, go ahead. Okay, we want to render a tab as if it were a menu, but when it comes to calling a screen within the component, which is an SD panel, it replaces the visualization of that tab. And I don't know if there is a way in which you can just keep it the same or just replace the container where we are working in that moment so that the screen is rendered without moving from the tab. So I don't know if you can do that. We've tried simulating that as an extensile with the icons, but it's not a native functionality in the tab. So I don't know if you have any better solution. Android, iOS, or both? Both. Does the control, okay, so the control tab will not keep the same screen, only if you replace components inside, but if you're navigating, then you will be moving to a different screen. Well, okay, but can you replace the component? Sorry, before Abdias, I have a question. That panel that you have in your tab, is it the main panel of the application? Yeah. Okay, in that case, instead of using a tab control in a panel, you can use the object menu, and in the properties on top of the menu, you have one that tells you how to display it, and it says show like tab. That is going to show you a native control that will give you the behavior that you want to achieve. But in our case, we always need to render the side menu. We always need. Okay, so you want both. Yeah, and that is the thing, you know, it's how to simulate that or to replace the component. What I'm thinking is that maybe you could, in the controller where you have your tabs, you can have in each tab a component, and instead of making a call, you can replace the objects in the component. you will lose the navigation, but at least it will work. I don't know if what I said is okay. So you should have a tab in each. No, I didn't get it. No, there is a control that is called component. SD component is the name. Or yeah, actually, we are using the SD components to get the screen that we already have the SD panel. We inject it in the main table of each tab element without but the problem is that the execution time, you know, is hard. How can I replace that? But you can assign the component in execution time. It's got an object property that you can assign it with. You can assign it with an object. Oh, and that will replace it on its own. Yeah, control SD component has an object property that assigns it to an event and it replaces the object that you have. Yeah, okay, I'll take a look at that. Thank you. Yeah, still be careful because you will be losing navigation. I don't know if that is a great design because you will be, you know, compromising in terms of the back end and stuff like that, So you need to be really careful to see whether or not that works for your usage in particular. Okay, so would you rather advise me to just call the screen and have the tab disappear and just keep the return button? Yes, either that or that your main is your menu. That could also work. Yeah, we don't support having two different navigation forms at the same time. You cannot have the slide and the tab at the same time in native controls. You need to choose one of the two and you need to do your application in the best possible way. The way that it looks the most similar to what you want to achieve. By using the tab control, well, it won't be easy to get the same as if you're using a native control. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we're past our time. Thanks to everyone. Sorry, Aníbal, give me 1 minute. Okay, the example that Carlos was telling us about uses a directory that is an internal application directory, so you shouldn't need to get permits. If you can send us the configuration that you have, maybe the platform or the OS version and all the data that it's supporting to try to see why that example is asking users for permission. It shouldn't be. Okay, now yes, Aníbal, sorry that I interrupted you. No, please. Whatever you have to say is always more important. I just wanted to thank everyone for being here, in particular, Fabian, you know, working really hard from our GeneXus offices in Spain. So thanks a lot. Thanks to all our attendees. Thank you for being with us. And remember that until the 16th of December, we will have, you know, we will release our roadmap. We will have Ask Me Anything webinars every Tuesday and Wednesday at the same time. So do schedule that and join us. Okay, so long and have a good one.